Hey everyone, so today I'm chatting with Matt Bradburn, who is not only an AI builder, but he's also an expert in the HR and the people space.
I feel like a complete imposter building things with an HR background and no engineering background, but let's give it a go. I wanted to build a SaaS product to help companies work out what they should pay people. A lot of people don't understand what some of the clauses in their offer letters mean or how to benchmark equity, and even really senior people. What if we gave people the opportunity to work out what they should be paid? I'm trying to take all of the areas that I see problems in people operations and solve for them in the easiest, simplest possible ways. You can just go and build things. And I was like, that simple little phrase. And I was like, yeah, I can just go and build things. So I'm gonna.
Hey everyone, so today I'm chatting with Matt Bradburn, who is not only an AI builder, but he's also an expert in the HR and the people space. Now, he's had leadership roles in people positions at companies like Lyst and Peakon, as well as advised companies like Deliveroo, Zoe, and Multiverse. He's found and sold his own people consultancy and been working on a few kind of related products in the space over the last few months. Matt, firstly, thank you very much for coming on the series and having a chat with us.
Pleasure, Ed. Thanks for having me.
And I know you've been working on a couple of things, one of which you're going to give us a demo in just a little bit. But perhaps before we get to that, you can just give us a little bit more context about why you started getting interested in AI and what your journey's been.
I mean, firstly, thanks for having me. I feel like a complete imposter building things with an HR background and no engineering background, but let's give it a go. So having spent my entire career working in tech companies within people and HR roles, I'd always had a fascination around the engineering and the product side of things. And when I was building out People Collective, the consultancy that I built, a lot of the time we kind of thought about building people ops like a product, right? This idea of designing an organization to be able to scale, thinking about, what are you actually building for the users, the people that are employed, how do you actually think about the feedback loops? How do you think about the funnel? How do you make sure that you're able to keep them, resubscribing, right? Like a subscription product. So that kind of was one area that got my fascination. The other was when I was obviously running consulting projects, as soon as ChatGPT came out, I was like, oh my word, like the opportunity here to take all of this broader intelligence, combine it with my kind of contextual knowledge of the field. And I just found it fascinating. And I've had the last kind of 6 months to build upon that. And yeah, it's been very fun.
And have you been kind of coding and building things then sort of solely for 6 months, or has it been a sort of a slow ramp up? Or
it's been a slow ramp up, but I mean, right, you see the speed at which these tools are developing, changing, improving, like constantly. And I think that, I've started just kind of testing anything and everything until I found a nice little sweet spot with Lovable, which for my level of capability and understanding was about the right level. I've been using Replit a bit as well. But I think, Lovable plus Superbase is a good starting point for testing some of the things I want to build.
Great. Well, look, I'd love to chat to you more about how you kind of settled on that tool set, but why don't we have a look at what you've built first and go from there?
I'm going to start at the beginning and give you a little bit of context around this. So a while back, I wanted to build a SaaS product to help companies work out what they should pay people. So, make employee benchmarking much easier. One of the ways I was thinking about it in terms of product growth was actually, what if we did it from the ground up? What if we gave people the opportunity to work out what they should be paid and take that kind of classic, groundswell approach, which has worked for many companies. And therefore, I wanted to build the product in that way. Now, that never took off the ground, but recently I was like, actually, this is a really useful thing for people. A lot of people don't know what they should be paid. A lot of people don't understand what some of the clauses in their offer letters mean or how to benchmark equity, and even really senior people. And it was when a chap on LinkedIn made a post about what chief product officers should get paid and what their equity packages should look like, and he's advising them around it. And he said most of them didn't have an idea. I was like, well, let's put this together. And as you can see, here is version 1 or 0.1. I started off by, just giving the inputs. that fundamentally I wanted to be able to paste the context from an offer letter and give people some insights and give them just a bit of analysis on that, right? So that's where we started. From here, I wanted to improve the not just the looks, which, as you can see, is pretty ugly, but also the capabilities of it as well. Now, with my background and context within compensation and reward consulting, I know that we're going to have to get some levels in there, some locations. We're going to have a bit of an understanding of local regulations and all of that as well. So I started putting in some of the inputs before quite quickly updating the branding and styling because, ugly.
This is amazing. So we can see all the different versions you've got here and just how fast you're kind of building these. Did you have like a vision of how this was going to end up, or were you just building it sort of, quite organically, sort of, more like vibe coding, kind of seeing where your thoughts took you?
It was a bit of a combination. I knew where I wanted to get to. I knew that for the final version, I wanted someone to be able to take, if they're in the US, an offer letter, or in the UK or Europe, a contract, and be able to put this into my analyzer and get these specific pieces in return. Firstly, understand whether the comp is fair, equitable, is it in the right range? Understand the equity. Is that fair, equitable, in the right range, roughly? Hard to benchmark. Thirdly, I want to make sure that all the clauses around equity were reasonable, structured, sensible, and reflect the stage of business. And 4, I wanted to go deep dive into some of the other legal nasties, should we say, that people put in there around IP clauses, non-compete clauses, etc., and make sure that there was nothing in there that would be, unfortunate for someone to have.
And were you just starting with the sort of the front end look to start with, or is this all kind of like connected up already to some kind of back end?
Nope. So I think one of the other things I wanted to make sure, it was that this could be run anywhere nice and easily for people. I didn't want to set it up as a data collection path, right? I didn't want to use it in a way that would actually take the data from people's offer letters and potentially use it down the line. So I decided very early on, it was just going to be, upload, input your information, store it in the browser, right? Like I didn't want to have a proper back end. I didn't want to have, databases connected to it, if that makes sense.
Got it.
It was quite easy to then iterate from there.
Where's it got to now?
So where it's got to now, we started redeveloping this, improve offer analyzer title, equity protection analyzer, until where we get to now. At this point, now we have this, unlock your offer's true value, which puts you in a very nice spot to be able to take any kind of content from your offer letter and put it into action. So if I pull up an example here, I'm going to take a US offer letter. I'm going to make sure that this then goes into the analyzer. Unfortunately, one of the biggest challenges that I haven't quite solved for yet is a PDF upload, because doing so without having my own Node.js server turned out to be quite challenging. So I know that this person is a senior lead. I know that they are in machine learning. I know that it's in the USA, pre-IPO startup, posted in the content. Ta-da! Right, so solid base salary. And I wanted to give people this idea like immediately, like right in your face, is this acceptable? Like that's, straight off the bat, here's some clear information. Yes, this offer aligns with market rates. Good options, good base salary, health insurance, dental, vision, paid or time available. Lovely. I wanted to put in a bit of risk assessment. So it has got some important protections that could impact your long-term comp, which you can then review down here. So no acceleration clauses for equity, for example, and no extended exercise window. So you might want to negotiate on those. And then it detects these terms. So it's got the vesting schedule, performance bonus, etc. And then some negotiation recommendations. So I wanted to give people that kind of power back to be able to be like, right, these are the areas that you could have a look at negotiating. Now, you're not necessarily going to get all of these. a single trigger acceleration clause. But you can certainly ask for them, right? And what I wanted to do was give people, and this bit, still needs some work, but just a little like negotiation email template, a starter for 10 that they could use to go and send back to a company and say, thanks, but I would like X, Y, and Z. So that's where we've got to.
Amazing. I love it. It's so useful. And I think I was even playing around with this before the call, and I found just kind of looking through the different seniorities and job families and locations was super interesting, because you could see the salary range and you could see the experience and the typical equity updated in real time. It was really, really interesting.
And I tried to, add a bit of this kind of contextual information as well. So all of this is like tailored for your job level. So what you put in, you're going to get useful context around, some of the wording there. So if you're a junior person, you just don't know what all of the glossary of terms means. This just makes it way easier. And yeah, I had to feed it quite the extensive knowledge base. I was in a lucky position that I had the information, but I fed it a very, very extensive knowledge base to set it up in the first place.
With that,
voice of Lovable allowing you to do that.
Let's talk about your process a little bit more, because firstly, you said you've been trying some different tools. Like, why did you decide to go for Lovable and Superbase together?
Yeah. I mean, so as I said, didn't need to use Superbase for this one, which would make my life much easier. I found Lovable extremely easy to use. Like, it is, kind of just straight off the bat, very simple. If you come from a non-technical background like myself, it's very easy to understand what to do. It's very good at not overcomplicating the process. For example, on some of the other products that I've been building, it's been really good at making suggestions like, you need to add, for this, we need to have a database. This is how you go and set up Superbase. Or like, you need to add authentication. Here's the instructions to go and set up Google OAuth. That's what I've been really impressed with Lovable. I like Replit a lot. And I feel like a lot of what I'm doing at the moment will probably then move to Replit or Cursor. But where I am right now, it's kind of like the perfect position for me, where I can do a lot, I can build a full product spec and code spec on Grok, and then feed it and then tell it to turn it into a prompt, feed it to Lovable, and it gets moving very quickly.
Great. And that's your workflow, is it? You've got an idea, you put that into Grok.
Yeah.
Grok, you ask it then to turn it into a spec.
Yeah.
And then you paste that into Lovable. So
exactly. So I usually ask for a spec and code for version 1 with some detailing around that, and then copy and paste it into there, and then it's just a case of iterating continuously in Lovable until I hit some sort of limit.
Amazing. And throughout this whole process, and maybe that's with this product, or maybe it's throughout your kind of whole journey, what have been the biggest challenges you've had, or the biggest kind of learnings you've had with just building things in this way?
I think the first thing has been it's far easier than I thought it was going to be, and I think that the speed of iteration has just been bananas, right? Like, I actually started then mocking up this product that I wanted to build, this benchmarking tool. So I paid an obnoxious amount of money to a couple of engineers who then ran off with the IP. So I know all about getting your contracts right, to build this a few years back, right? And I wouldn't have been able to do that myself. Built it in Lovable in about 2 hours. And I think the next thing that I learned very quickly was firstly, don't just tell it to go build something. Using Grok to create the product spec made a massive difference to the first version of whatever I was putting, whether I'm using Replit or Lovable, by building that really structured product spec, by querying Grok a bit further, getting it to refine that in terms of like, think about the user, think about what they're going to use it for, think about their needs, like based on your research, do this, etc. Like, if you keep digging there, it then makes the build stage way easier, which I presume is the same for product leaders in real life, fundamentally, right? The better your spec and the clearer you are about what you're trying to achieve and reach. So pretty similar there. And I think the other one has just been trawling X constantly for what people are using for debugging, how people are approaching that. And I copied it and kept it. And there's a guy who posted just a little prompt around debugging that I have found time and time again over the last few months has been absolutely glorious. And it just starts off with like, reflect on 5 to 7 different possible sources of the problem, distill those down to 1 or 2 most likely sources, then add logs to validate your assumptions before we move into implementing the actual code fix. Right? Like just having that every time, because obviously I'm not an engineer, it then gives me the opportunity to understand. It will kind of present back to me. It could be this, it could be A, B, C, D, or E. This is why I think it's A or B or C or D or E. This is the potential solution, and these are the 2 I think are best. And it's helped me then understand what's actually being built far better than if I'm just like, please fix this. Do you know what I mean? Like that just doesn't really get you anywhere. So that's another hack I found to be very helpful.
Amazing. And if you're willing to share those, then we can stick them in the comments of this video so everyone can benefit from them. Using Grok, I wanted to kind of follow up on that. Is that the same as using ChatGPT or Claude? Is there any reason you chose to use Grok instead of the others?
So I tested them all. What I try and do is create the same across all 3, then apply it into the 2 different builders, and then see which one is kind of giving me the immediate vibe of you're going to give me the better outcome and answer. And I found generally that for the level that I'm at, I found Grok has been really good at setting up product specs and also generating that first version of code. 3.7 on Claude is now kind of pretty similar. Like, I've been very happy with that. ChatGPT, oddly, doesn't seem so good at the product spec side. It takes a little longer to then iterate within whatever I'm building. So yeah, that's what I found so far.
Amazing. What are your next steps you've got planned with this particular product?
I need to learn how to do some server-side coding. So that's going to be fun. So I'm working out at the moment how to run my own Node.js server. That's fine. I reckon I can work that out from my reading over the weekend. That means I can then add PDF uploads instead of, at the moment, you just have to copy and paste. We tried to use a client-side, a couple of libraries to get that done, but it wasn't working because the browser was going absolutely not. So yes, that's my next stage for that one. And then upgrading the email quality so that it will actually give you kind of what I would send instead of just, it gives you the options, but it's some of them are a bit, here's a laundry list of the 5 things that I want to negotiate on. So I'm going to try and make that a little more human. Those are the next ones there. But mostly at the moment, I'm working on a couple of slightly different products. So again, I'm trying to take all of the areas that I see problems in people operations and solve for them in the easiest, simplest possible way. So one is a kind of dashboarding to actions product for people and commercial data. So how do you combine, everything from like, what are your revenue goals? What's your current state of revenue? What's your revenue per employee? But also what's your engagement data? And then how do you provide clear actions for leadership and managers in order to, ensure that you're meeting that? And the other one is everyone in SF's least favorite equity management platform, Carter, which I've been using to help a client, and I hate it more than life itself. And I'm just trying to build a much simpler version of it because, quite frankly, like, no one needs it's so overcomplicated. The onboarding flow is not a flow, and I'm like, this can be done so much more easily. So yeah, that's what I'm doing more. I'm just going to leave this one out into the ether.
Is this already live? Can people find it, or are you kind of waiting to do a bit more development on it?
I'm going to give it its own little landing page and proper URL. But yeah, it's live. It's out there. Anyone can access it. I will send it around afterwards because it's not got the easiest URL to remember. Or I suppose no-your-offer.lovable.app.
Yeah, super. And for yourself, like, personally, do you think this is something where you're just going to be churning out like a lot of these little tools because they're interesting or valuable, or is this sort of just, hey, you're going to learn the skills, maybe you'll do a bit to kind of keep your eye in, but this is never going to be the core of your job going forwards?
I think the core of what I'm doing is trying to build out. Well, I'm trying to solve consulting much more effectively and quickly with AI. So solve the HR work that I was doing before, combine that with AI, which is great. Some of these little products will absolutely help me in doing that. And I think what I'm looking to get to is a point where there'll be a bunch of these free ones on my website. Anyone can go and use them. And then some of the more heavyweight ones, the paid ones, I do agree with the argument that, some parts of SaaS are going to go to zero, so to put it. Probably not to zero, but you know what I mean. And I think that smaller, quicker, more customizable tooling, combined with essentially services, this guy, can be very effective for some of my clients, and could well potentially turn into a paid basic SaaS solution, often for smaller companies who don't want to pay for something more expensive. But I can, if I can spin up something quickly, then great.
Fantastic. Well, look, before we finish up, I got one final question, which is if you had someone come to you and ask how should they get into building stuff with these AI tools, what's the one resource that you're kind of most likely to recommend them or point them at?
I mean, it's cliched, but honestly, it's just Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Like that's where you're just seeing these incredible things coming out of nowhere. There's a lot of games and a lot of people getting frustrated with Peter Levels for building a flight simulator that's making him, $75,000 a month when it looks like it's made out of blocks, kind of Minecraft-y flight simulator vibes. But I absolutely love that. Like, I think that there's I saw a guy called Pat Walls on there wrote something which just really stuck with me, which was, you can just go and build things. And I was like, that simple little phrase. And I was like, yeah, I can just go and build things. So I'm gonna. And I think just, the more you kind of reading in there, the more that you're seeing people and you're looking at the tags around the various tools. Because they're all so new, everyone's kind of working their way through it themselves, and even experienced engineers are like, oh, actually no, I found this, or this worked really well, this didn't work well, or you should try this, etc. So I think that's been the best resource for sure.
Well, I know you're very active on social media as well, so make sure we've got links to your profiles in the show notes, as well as to this tool here. And if people want to find out more, they can get in touch directly.
Absolutely.
Super. Well, thanks very much, Matt. It's been a pleasure, and good luck with everything that you build.
Thanks so much, Ed. Pleasure being on the show.